Hello, my friend. Today we will once again explore and talk about the topic, female psychologists are training modern girls. Let's dive into it together with psychological depth. 12 million followers, 0 credentials, a ring light, a rented apartment backdrop, and a vocabulary borrowed from actual textbooks she never read. She calls herself a trauma-informed transformation coach and charges $300 an hour to tell women their boyfriends are narcissists. Her qualifications? A weekend certification she bought online and an Instagram aesthetic that photographs well. This woman is shaping how an entire generation of girls thinks about relationships, self-worth, and mental health. Not psychiatrists with decades of training, not researchers publishing peer-reviewed studies, not therapists with clinical supervision and ethical oversight. Her, the influencer who discovered that female pain is a profitable market and healing is a product that never needs to actually work, because the customer who heals stops paying. Something shifted in the last decade. Psychology, a serious discipline built on scientific method, clinical rigor, and professional accountability, got hijacked, repackaged, sold in 60-second clips to women scrolling at midnight, feeling vaguely unhappy, searching for someone to explain why. An army of pseudo-experts rose to meet that demand, armed with nothing but confidence and an algorithm that rewards emotional provocation over actual insight. Today, we're examining what these female psychologists, and I use the term loosely, are actually teaching modern girls. The ideology underneath the empowerment language, the business model disguised as healing, the damage being done to relationships, self-perception, and genuine mental health. While everyone applauds the aesthetic of wellness, this matters because these ideas don't stay on screens. They migrate into real relationships, into how women treat men, into how women treat themselves, into the expectations, demands, and frameworks that shape whether partnerships succeed or collapse. The training is happening whether you're aware of it or not. The question is whether you understand what's being trained. Therapy became a status symbol somewhere along the way, not a tool for addressing genuine dysfunction, a fashion accessory, a credential that signals sophistication. "I'm in therapy now" communicates something about identity rather than describing a treatment process for an actual problem. Scroll through social media bios. Healing journey, doing the work, in my therapy era. These phrases function as tribal markers. They signal membership in a community that values a particular kind of self-presentation. The woman who announces she's been in therapy for 10 years isn't describing a treatment process, she's performing an identity. Healing became who she is rather than something she's trying to complete. The perverse incentive is obvious. If healing is your identity, actually healing threatens your identity. The woman whose entire social presence revolves around her trauma narrative has no motivation to resolve the trauma. Resolution would end the content, end the community, and the sense of purpose that working on herself provides. Staying wounded becomes psychologically preferable to genuine recovery. Competition emerges in strange forms. Who has processed more? Whose trauma is deeper? Whose inner work is more advanced? Women compare therapeutic journeys the way previous generations compared careers or relationships. "I've done EMDR and somatic therapy, and parts work" becomes a credential, a marker of sophisticated suffering that elevates her above women who haven't commodified their pains so thoroughly. Meanwhile, actual psychological improvement remains unmeasured. Nobody asks, "Are you functioning better? Are your relationships healthier? Are you less anxious, less reactive, more capable of navigating difficulty?" The metrics that would indicate genuine progress go unexamined. Only the performance of healing matters, not the reality. The explosion of unqualified experts compounds the problem exponentially. Platforms reward engagement, not accuracy. A provocative claim about narcissism generates more shares than nuanced discussion of attachment patterns. A dramatic declaration that all your problems stem from childhood trauma performs better than careful exploration of multiple contributing factors. The algorithm selects for emotional impact. Clinical accuracy produces no engagement benefit. Anyone can claim expertise. Now, the barriers that protected the profession, education, licensing, supervised practice, ethical oversight, these gatekeepers don't exist online. A woman with a compelling personal story and basic marketing skills can position herself as an authority. Her qualifications? She went through something. She figured it out. Now she'll teach you. The contrast with actual psychology is stark. Sigmund Freud, whatever his limitations, built theories through decades of clinical observation, published in journals, subjected his ideas to criticism, evolved his thinking based on evidence. Contemporary Instagram psychologists skip all of this. They assert, they proclaim, they sell. The feedback loop is follow account, not patient outcomes. The measure of success is revenue, not recovery. Mysticism fills gaps where psychology proves insufficient. When the therapeutic vocabulary stops generating engagement, the pivot happens predictably. Astrology enters, energy work appears, manifestation becomes central. Kundalini activations, Mercury retrograde explanations, crystal healing. The scientific pretense gets abandoned once the audience is captured, replaced by whatever mystical framework generates the next wave of content. This isn't accidental. Psychology creates expectations of improvement. Patients expect to feel better. When they don't, when the advice proves useless, disillusionment threatens the business model. Mysticism solves this problem elegantly. Astrology can't be disproven. Energy blockages can't be measured. If the manifestation didn't work, your vibration was wrong. The framework becomes unfalsifiable, protecting the expert from accountability while keeping the customer perpetually enrolled. The business structure deserves examination because it reveals the actual priorities. Free content generates audience. The audience gets funneled into low-cost webinars. Webinars upsell to courses. Courses upsell to coaching. Coaching upsells to retreats. Each level extracts more money while promising the breakthrough that previous levels failed to deliver. The structure is identical to multi-level marketing, just dressed in therapeutic language. Scarcity tactics proliferate. Only 10 spots remaining. Price increases at midnight. This is your last chance to transform. Urgency overrides rational evaluation. The woman who would never impulse buy a handbag finds herself purchasing $1,000 programs at 2 a.m. because the countdown timer triggered panic. Her vulnerability, the very thing she's seeking help for, becomes the lever that extracts her money. The messaging targets insecurity with surgical precision. You've been tolerating abuse. Your boundaries have been violated. You deserve so much more than you're accepting. These statements might sometimes be accurate. More often, they're designed to create doubt where none existed. The woman in a functional relationship starts questioning whether it's actually functional. The woman with normal life challenges starts wondering if she's deeply traumatized. Problems get manufactured to sell solutions. If she's content, she can't be monetized. Contentment must be reframed as denial. Stability must be recast as settling. The relationship that works fine must be revealed as secretly toxic. The pseudo-therapist's income depends on convincing women that they have problems requiring her specific intervention. Healthy women don't pay for healing. Relationships suffer first and most visibly. The messaging trains women to evaluate partners through a lens of perpetual inadequacy. Does he meet all your needs? Are you being fully seen? Is he doing the work on himself? These questions sound reasonable. Applied ruthlessly, they make every partner insufficient. No human meets all needs. No one is fully seen. That's not even coherent as a goal. The framework guarantees dissatisfaction. Stable men get reframed as boring. Consistent behavior becomes evidence of low emotional intelligence. The absence of drama indicates absence of passion. The relationship that functions without crisis is deemed lacking in depth. Women absorb this framework and start creating conflict to test whether their partners can handle emotional intensity.
Manufacturing the drama they've been taught indicates real connection. Demands escalate without logical limit. You deserve becomes the operating principle. Deserve luxury, deserve perfection, deserve a man who anticipates every need without being told. The entitlement is one-directional, extractive rather than reciprocal. Men become projects to be evaluated rather than partners to build with. Is he healing his trauma? Has he done his inner work? Is he emotionally evolved? These assessments position her as the developed one, the authority, the judge of his adequacy.
The relationship becomes her overseeing his improvement rather than two people collaborating on shared life. Materialism infiltrates through empowerment language. Self-love means accepting only the best. Know your worth. Don't settle for less. A man who truly values you shows it with investment. The translation is transparent. Demand expensive things. A woman's value correlates with what she extracts. Love is measured in luxury goods. Gold digger mentality gets rebranded as self-respect. The woman who openly pursued wealthy men was criticized historically. Now she's knowing her worth. The woman who expected provision was called dependent. Now she's receiving what she deserves. The behavior is identical, only the framing changed. And the framing changed because pseudo-therapists discovered that dressing materialism in therapeutic language makes it palatable to women who would otherwise reject it. Lifestyle imagery sells the vision. The influencer's Instagram features flowers delivered for no occasion, designer bags, apartments that cost more than annual salaries, cars she definitely doesn't finance herself. The implication, this is what her method produces. Follow her guidance and this becomes your life too. The reality behind these images rarely survives scrutiny. The flowers are bought for content, not received from devotees. The apartments are rented for photo shoots. The luxury goods are borrowed from PR companies seeking exposure. The wealthy lifestyle that supposedly validates her advice often has sources she doesn't disclose. Benefactors, sponsors, arrangements that would undermine her brand if revealed. Responsibility diffuses into abstraction. Problems require causes. The pseudo-therapeutic framework provides causes that require no action. Your anxiety isn't about habits you could change, it's childhood trauma you can only process expensively. Your relationship problems aren't about your behavior, they're about his unhealed wounds you can't control. Your career stagnation isn't about skill gaps, it's about energy blocks only a healer can clear. Everything external, everything requiring expert intervention, nothing within her direct control. The framework creates perfect dependency. She can't solve the problems herself. The causes are too deep, too mystical, too specialized. Only the expert can guide her through, and guidance conveniently requires ongoing payment. Mercury retrograde explains failed communications. Birth charts explain incompatibility. Past lives explain present struggles. Energy from ex-partners explains current blockages. The mystical buffet offers endless explanations, none of which require her to do anything differently. She can sit in her dysfunction fully explained, permanently absolved, indefinitely paying someone to keep her comfortable there. The spiritual authority compounds the manipulation. I'm connected to higher guidance. Messages come through me. I channel wisdom you can't access alone. These assertions position the influencer as intermediary between the woman and truth itself. Questioning the expert becomes questioning the universe. Skepticism becomes spiritual inadequacy. The religious structure emerges unmistakably. Special language that outsiders don't understand. In-group elevation, where conscious, there asleep. Beliefs that cannot be questioned. Loyalty to the teacher that resembles devotion. Financial sacrifice as proof of commitment. The therapy culture became a secular religion complete with priests, rituals, and tithes rebranded as course payments. Independence of thought atrophies. The woman who once trusted her own judgment now consults her therapist about every decision. Should she take this job? What does her coach think? Should she respond to this text? Better ask the group chat of fellow healing journey members. Every thought requires external validation. Every feeling needs expert interpretation. Her own mind becomes foreign territory she's not qualified to navigate alone. Artificial intelligence gets mocked in these circles, but ChatGPT probably provides better guidance than many online therapists. At least the AI doesn't have financial incentive to keep her problems unresolved.
At least the AI doesn't manufacture trauma to sell solutions. The bar has dropped so low that algorithmic responses compete favorably with human experts who've optimized for extraction rather than assistance. Genuine mental health needs get exploited worst.
The woman with actual depression, actual anxiety, actual trauma. She's the ideal customer. Her pain is real. Her desperation is real. Her willingness to pay for relief is real. The predators find her first before legitimate help arrives. They keep her in their ecosystem, enrolled in their programs, convinced that breakthrough awaits in the next level of purchase. Real therapists watch this with horror and helplessness. They spend years earning credentials that Instagram influencers ignore. They follow ethical guidelines that online coaches never learned. They charge less than the gurus while providing actual clinical care. But they can't compete with marketing machines optimized for viral engagement. These serious professionals lose the visibility war while charlatans capture the audience. The empowerment narrative deserves particular attention because it's the primary vehicle for damage. You don't owe anyone anything. Put yourself first, always. You're a queen. Act accordingly. Be ruthless about protecting your peace. These statements sound like confidence. Applied consistently, they produce isolated, cold, relationally incapable women. Relationships require obligation. They require sometimes putting another person first. They require tolerating discomfort without fleeing. The empowerment framework opposes all of this. Every compromise becomes betrayal of self. Every sacrifice becomes loss of boundaries. Every accommodation becomes evidence of insufficient self-love. The woman becomes incapable of partnership because partnership requires exactly what she's been trained to refuse. Ego inflates while capacity shrinks. She's told she's a queen. She's told she's worthy of everything. She's told the problem is always them, never her. The feedback loop eliminates any information that would promote growth. Criticism indicates the critic's inadequacy. Relationship failures indicate partners who couldn't match her level. The framework protects her from ever confronting her own contribution to her problems. Emotional coldness gets rebranded as protection. The woman who can't connect isn't struggling, she's guarded. The woman who dismisses every man isn't unrealistic, she has standards. The woman who can't maintain friendships isn't difficult, she's refusing to tolerate toxicity. Every relational failure becomes evidence of virtue rather than signal of dysfunction. Social media replace genuine psychological engagement. 60-second videos deliver insights that would require hours to properly understand. Complex conditions get reduced to meme formats. Diagnostic criteria become checklist content. Signs you were raised by a narcissist. 5 characteristics that describe virtually every imperfect parent who ever lived. The woman watches, recognizes herself, concludes she's been traumatized, and enters the funnel. Algorithms determine mental health frameworks. Now, what performs well spreads. What performs well is emotionally provocative. What's emotionally provocative is often misleading, reductive, or flatly wrong. The selection pressure isn't accuracy, it's engagement. The ideas that shape how women think about themselves weren't chosen for validity, they were chosen for virality. These are different criteria that produce different results. The philosophical core of this movement deserves direct statement because it's rarely made explicit. The operating belief, you are wounded, you have been wronged, you are owed. The world must adjust to you. Your feelings are paramount. Your comfort is mandatory. Anyone who challenges this is toxic and must be removed. This philosophy is incompatible with functional adulthood. Adults tolerate discomfort. Adults accept that the world doesn't revolve around them. Adults recognize that their feelings, while valid, don't determine reality. Adults grow through challenge rather than retreating from it. The therapeutic philosophy produces perpetual adolescence, chronologically mature, psychologically stuck. Work disappears from the framework entirely. Real change requires effort, sustained, uncomfortable, unglamorous effort. Changing behavior patterns takes repetition over months. Developing new skills demands practice through failure. Building meaningful relationships requires tolerance of friction. None of this fits the instant transformation promises that drive engagement, so none of this gets taught. The appeal is obvious and human.
We want easy solutions. We want our problems explained by forces outside our control. We want to be told we're already perfect and the world is wrong. The pseudo-therapists offer exactly this. They sell what people want to believe. That's why they succeed commercially while producing no actual improvement. Most people don't need therapy. This is heresy in the healing industrial complex.
But it's true. Most people need structure, purpose, exercise, sleep, meaningful work, and real relationships. They need to stop consuming content that makes them feel damaged. They need to stop seeking expert validation for ordinary life struggles. They need to do things rather than process feelings about doing things. The genuinely unwell suffer most from this environment. When everyone claims trauma, actual trauma becomes invisible. When everyone needs therapy, therapy access for those who genuinely need it becomes scarce. When therapeutic language gets applied to normal disappointment, it loses power to describe genuine disorder. The inflation of pathology devalues real pathology. Men watch this transformation with confusion and alarm. The women they date increasingly speak in therapeutic jargon. Every discussion becomes processed through frameworks that position them as perpetrators. Their normal behaviors get labeled with clinical terms. They're told they're narcissists for wanting space, abusers for expressing frustration, toxic for having preferences. The language weaponizes against them. Relationships with these women become impossible. Her friends validate every complaint. Her online community confirms every suspicion. Her therapist reframes every conflict as evidence of his dysfunction. He's surrounded by forces that interpret everything he does negatively. No behavior survives this scrutiny. No man measures up to frameworks designed to find inadequacy everywhere. The trained woman eventually faces consequences. The friendships dissolve because she's exhausting to be around. The relationships end because no partner tolerates permanent evaluation. The career stalls because her victimhood narrative conflicts with professional demands. The peace she was promised never arrives. She spent thousands, followed every guru, done the work for years, and she's more miserable than when she started. This outcome doesn't discredit the framework in her mind. The framework adapts. Clearly, she hasn't gone deep enough yet. Clearly, there's more trauma to uncover. Clearly, the next level of training will produce the breakthrough previous levels didn't. The failure becomes reason for continued enrollment rather than evidence that the approach itself is broken. Breaking free requires recognizing the pattern. The industry needs her wounded. The experts need her seeking. The framework needs her dependent. Nobody in this ecosystem benefits from her actually getting better. The incentives align against her recovery. Understanding this is the first step toward escaping. Genuine improvement follows different principles. Take responsibility rather than finding blame. Act rather than process. Build real things rather than healing imaginary wounds. Connect with people directly rather than through digital intermediaries. Accept that life involves discomfort and grow through it rather than demanding its removal. Stop consuming content designed to make you feel damaged. Recognize that most online psychology is marketing, not science. Understand that your problems probably don't require years of professional intervention. They require you to do difficult things you've been avoiding. The answer isn't more therapy. The answer is more living. This message won't be popular. It doesn't sell courses. It doesn't promise transformation in 30 days. It doesn't position anyone as your guru who can guide you to enlightenment. It just suggests that you're probably more capable than you've been told, that your wounds are probably less defining than you've been convinced, that the help you need is probably less specialized than the industry claims. The training these female psychologists provide isn't empowerment, it's domestication. Women are being trained to be consumers of a certain worldview, customers of a certain industry, dependents on a certain kind of expert. They're being shaped to distrust their own judgment, require external validation, and pay continuously for guidance they don't actually need. Modern girls deserve better. They deserve frameworks that build capacity rather than dependency. They deserve experts who want them to need less help rather than more. They deserve ideologies that promote responsibility rather than victimhood. They deserve to be treated as capable adults rather than perpetual patients. The training can be unlearned.
The programming can be overwritten. The woman who recognizes what's been done to her can begin doing something different. But recognition comes first. She has to see the structure clearly before she can dismantle it in her own mind. Share this with women you care about, not to attack them.
To show them what they're being sold. The ones who recognize the pattern will be grateful for the clarity. The ones who don't aren't ready yet, but the information is now available. The training is exposed. What she does with that exposure is her choice. The pseudo-therapists won't like this content. Their business model depends on keeping women in the dark about how it actually functions. Exposure threatens revenue, but her well-being matters more than their profit margins. Her mental health matters more than their engagement metrics. Her life matters more than their brand. Real psychology exists. Real therapy helps real people with real problems. The solution isn't abandoning mental health care. It's distinguishing genuine help from predatory extraction. The professionals who actually care about patient outcomes aren't the ones with 12 million followers and crystal healing sidelines. They're the ones quietly doing the work, one patient at a time, without ring lights or viral content strategies. Find those people if you need help. Avoid the performers. Recognize the difference and build a life that doesn't require endless experts to navigate. That's what actual mental health looks like. Not perpetual healing, actual living. More content on recognizing manipulation, building genuine capability, and escaping frameworks that create dependency rather than strength exists elsewhere. Links below for those who want to go deeper. Comments are open. Share what you've observed. Share what you've escaped. Share what you wish you'd known earlier. Others will benefit from your experience. The training can be reversed, but only if women start seeing clearly what's being done to them. Done for today. Stop consuming poison disguised as medicine. Start building rather than processing. And remember, the industry needs you broken. Your health threatens their business model. Heal for real, and you become a customer they can't monetize. So, what are your thoughts on today's topic? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel Psychological Depth so you won't miss any of our upcoming posts. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.